Hello and welcome to another lovely edition of the Spotlight Library. I'm very pleased to have Liam Hogan with me today to share with us an award-winning story today. So Liam, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, doing well.
Good. Right, we're slightly cooler. I'm sure everybody's seen on the news. It's been incredibly warm over here in the UK, so we're pleased to enjoy a bit of a cooler day today. So yeah, Liam, do you want to tell people who might not be familiar with your work, like who you are as a writer and what kind of stuff that you work on?
Sure. So I'm a speculative short story writer, so I don't mind the genre too much as long as there's a what if in there, whether that's fantasy, science fiction, horror, steampunk, weird. I'll write anything. I've yet to write a novel. Everyone keeps saying I should, and I keep saying not sure. So at the moment, my stories are all in the short form.
So maybe you could do like a Ray Bradbury-esque type thing of just having a lot of short stories in the same place, and then just staple them together and be like, it's the Martian Chronicles, but updated for the 21st century.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind putting out collections. I've got a couple of collections out,
Yeah.
but I've yet almost, it's almost true that I'd yet to write a sequel to any of my short stories. That's not quite true anymore.
Okay.
So there's possibility of stringing them together, but as yet, wasn't a lot joining them. So, except in theme, I suppose.
Yeah, and your name at the bottom.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the nice thing to have.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to hear from the story Anna in a bit, which was won the Quantum Shorts first prize in 2015. So very exciting. Do you want to talk us through like the story and maybe some inspirations for it as well?
Sure. So the Quantum Shorts is it's no longer running, but was a competition to combine fiction and quantum mechanics. And I did physics as a degree, so it's kind of very much in my ballpark. And also, I think their limit was 1,000 words. So again, flash stories with science in. And this one is kind of like a bit of a take on kind of the Schrodinger's cat thing, where you're not sure what the state is until you observe it. So in this case, it's a young girl who's got the idea that when she looks under the bed, there's either a monster there or there isn't. But as the story rolls on, it's kind of like it's not necessarily the monster that's the problem. It's the theoretical problems with the universe kind of splitting at this point. What happens in the other universes?
I think that's a really interesting competition in of itself. But yeah, that's a very interesting and exciting way to explore that with the monster under the bed. I wouldn't have necessarily gone there with just quantum physics stories, but that's really nice. So this one can also be found in a collection. You've got a couple of collections out, I believe.
Yeah, so I've got a fantasy collection that's almost 10 years old, called Happy Ending, Not Guaranteed. But my science fiction collection is more recent. It's only a year old, and it's called A Short History of the Future. I'm just going to pop this in front of my face.
Yeah, perfect.
And it's basically 42 stories, because they're all short, with kind of a retro science fiction themes, hence the kind of robot and space on the cover. So spaceships, time travel, alternative universes, all that sort of good stuff. All the stuff I kind of grew up with, but with my take on it and a slightly more modern, I hope, take on it as well.
Oh, that's nice. Well, I like that about short stories, is that you get a sort of little pocket view into the unique style and of an author, which is that's part of the joy of just this creative lark that we do, isn't it? Just
Yeah, definitely. I mean, short stories for me are they're less of, obviously they're much less work than a novel, but they're also kind of slightly more experimental. You can play with an idea, and that's where most of mine start. They are what ifs, they are ideas generated rather than the characters. I then need to find the characters to tell the story, which is the trickier bit. But the ideas come quick and fast, and if I was writing a novel about each one, they'd take a very long time to eke out. Whereas a short story, occasionally I write drabbles, which is exactly 100 words. So I can normally kind of expunge the idea very quickly if I feel like doing so.
Well, I think that's, like getting to the idea quickly is also a skill in of itself, saying that in terms of pure word count, short stories look like they're easier, but actually then you have to fit the whole arc and everything into that shorter packet, which can be much more difficult.
And for speculative fiction, you need to fit in world building, which is kind of a bit of a challenge. But it's a fun challenge because most of the time you can kind of get away with what the reader already knows about fantasy or science fiction worlds, and you can kind of, as long as you're not doing something that's too far from that, and that would probably then require a novel, you can kind of go with the everyone knows what a time machine kind of looks like, even though that we don't have them. So you can play around with that in relatively small amount of words.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's nice to have those baseline of expectations so that you can let that do some of the work for you. Yeah. Perfect. Well, I don't want to keep us here for too long because we're all very excited to get to the award-winning story in a moment. So you've got, as you say, your two collections out at the moment that people can go and check out if they'll love this story, Anna, and they can go and find more of your stuff. But where else can people find you if they want to connect?
So I have what I call a bibliography, which is not a real word, but that's fine. Which is basically a list of everything I've published, a lot of which is free to read. So you click on the link, and it's happy ending, not guaranteed at blogspot. So if you search for happy ending, not guaranteed, and my name, you will almost certainly find it.
Yeah. Perfect. And are you on any social medias? Can people connect with you?
I'm on Blue Sky these days because of what happened elsewhere. And Liam J. Hogan. So you can find me there as well.
Perfect. Well, yeah, please do check out Liam. He's a great person and a writer, as you will soon discover in both sides. So, Liam, do you want to just give us a bit of an intro into the story, and then we'll fade with the magic of editing into your reading of Anna?
Sure. Thanks, Alex. So this is Anna, award-winning story from Quantum Shorts 2016, and please enjoy it.
The things that can mess up a kid's head. Take Anna, for example. She was convinced that every time she looked under her bed, the universe split in two. In a parallel world in which a mirror Anna also looked under her bed before going to sleep and after saying her prayers, and where, up until then, she'd never found anything bad, this time there would be a ghastly demon with wicked teeth and blood-stained claws whose only desire was to catch and tear apart Anna, aged 6 3/4 years. Little wonder she said her prayers before she looked. Little wonder she had nightmares. I told her that wasn't the way the multiverse theory worked. That for every Anna that found a slavering beast, there was one that found a toy she'd lost, or one that forgot to look under the bed. She skewered me with her most outraged look. This Anna never forgot. But it's hard arguing theoretical physics with a child yet to turn 7. And as I wasn't prepared to deny the theory outright, it was clear this notion was not going to be an easy one to shift. It wasn't simply that she had a binary yes versus no, either or view, the coin toss that happened in her imagination every time she lifted the skirt that kept the under the bed out of sight. It was because what terrified her wasn't the finding a monster under the bed. It was the not finding a monster under the bed. In her head, every time she survived, she doomed the parallel universe Anna to a grisly death. It was the guilt that was crushing her. Why don't you not look? I reasoned. I have to, she replied with an air of ancient sorrow. There might be a monster under the bed. I have to check. And even if I don't, the other Anna will. This had me scratching my head, figuratively speaking. I'm a psychiatrist by trade, not a physicist. Wouldn't that require the universe to have already split? And once the other Anna looked, it would be her universe that split again, not this Anna's. Maybe this was something I could use. Anna, I said, who looks first, you or the other Anna? She suspected a trick and trod carefully. We both... And then she corrected herself. There is no other Anna. Not until I look. Or there is, but it's me, and we haven't split yet. If she is you, will she react to finding the monster the same way you would? She sucked air through the gap in her front teeth. I guess. And how would you react if, when you looked under the bed, you found a monster there? What would you do? I waited. The silence stretched between us. This was somewhere she hadn't been before. I don't know. But you'd do something. You wouldn't just sit there. No, she agreed. I'd run, hide, scream, maybe. I'm sure you would. And what would your parents do if they heard you scream? They'd come running. And they would. Any parent would. I let her think about this for a moment. Anna, you're intelligent, resourceful, and brave. And the other Anna, she is exactly the same. She is, after all, you. She, you, would not take it lying down. Don't think I haven't noticed the hobby horse propped up against the toy chest, ready for action. And the roller skates on the landing. I wasn't sure how the roller skates would help. Perhaps she hoped the monster would trip up on them. She'd be upset if I told her their mother worthily tidied them up each night. And the skates, I diplomatically agreed. It's not much, perhaps, but you're doing the best you can. And so would the other Anna. No monster is going to get a free lunch in this house. She laughed, a lovely little laugh, made all the more charming by the rarity of its use. I pushed on. So it's not a foregone conclusion that the monster always wins. And if it does not, then there are two Annas, she interrupted. This wasn't quite where I'd been going. I wanted her to acknowledge that she wasn't responsible for what happened in the other universes. How could she be? But sometimes, usually in fact, you have to let your patient find their own path. And then 4, and then 8, and then... She babbled on. A small chime rang out. Okay, Anna, I think we've made good progress. We'll leave it there for today. There was a muffled voice at the door. Anna, honey, who are you talking to in there? Anna called back. No one, Mummy. Which was an illuminating denial. I jotted it down on my pad for future discussion, curious to see if Anna's mother would come into the bedroom. Okay, sweetie. She caved in, as I suspected she would. But go to sleep now. You hear? Anna waited until the footsteps faded away down the hallway. Good night, Doctor. Good night, Anna, I replied. Sleep tight. And then I slid myself back under her bed, listening to her breathing softly slow and waiting for tomorrow night, when she would once again lift the covers and, all being well, discover me lying there, ready for our next session.